Let's study about heat and temperature. Heat and temperature. So before anything else, we first need to understand the meaning of heat and temperature. So let's first start with the concept of heat. So what is heat? So to understand heat, we need to understand two terms: hot bodies and cold bodies. So sometimes when we rub our hands, they become warm. The ice in the fridge is usually cold. When vehicles collide during the accident, they usually become very hot. Sometimes when aeroplane crashes, then it becomes so hot that it catches fire. So in each of the cases, in each of these examples, mechanical energy is lost, and some hotness or some heat is observed. So where does this mechanical energy vanish, and how does this mechanical energy convert and make the object hot? So need to understand this concept. So first of all, we need to understand that everything is made up of atoms, and atoms make up molecules. So atoms and molecules, we will call them particles for now. Okay, atoms and molecules, we will call them particles for now. So everything is made up of such particles. Everything is made up of such particles, and it is observed that these particles, the particles in any matter, they, let's say this we have this many particles in any substance. So it is observed that these particles move or vibrate. So let's say this particle is vibrating at its position, or this particle is moving in the space that there is present. These particles are moving. So it is observed that the atoms or molecules, or in general the particles, they move, and they have some kinetic energy. Obviously some particles are moving with more velocity, some particles are moving with less velocity. So in general we talk about their average kinetic energy. So all these particles have some average kinetic energy, and that average kinetic energy is called the temperature. And once we understand temperature, we can understand the concept of heat. So temperature is the average kinetic energy of the particles. Particles means atoms and molecules of any medium. So how is the temperature of any medium is determined? So it is the average kinetic energy of the particles which are moving of any medium. Remember why average? Because some are moving with more velocity, some are moving with less velocity. So we need to take the average of all those velocities or all those speeds. Now, so when we say that one object is hotter and one object is colder, so let's say this is our hot object, and let's say this is our cold object. So when we have a hot and a cold object, so what does this mean? So it means that the particles in the cold object are moving with less kinetic, or on an average less kinetic energy, and the particles of hot object are moving on an average with more kinetic energy. So here kinetic energy is high, here the kinetic energy is low. Now, so this is the concept of temperature. Now when we connect these two objects, so what happens is that there is a transfer of energy from hot object to a cold object, and this transfer of energy is called heat. So what is heat? What is heat? Heat is the transfer of energy from which naturally takes place from a hotter object to a colder object. So heat is the transfer of energy naturally taking place from a hotter object to a colder object. So heat is a transfer of energy, and temperature is the average kinetic energy of the particles present in any medium. Heat is the transfer of energy, temperature is the average kinetic energy of the particles present in any medium. So hot bodies have particles which are having higher average kinetic energies, cold bodies have particles which are having on an average less kinetic energies. So fully the concept of heat and temperature is clear to you. So thermodynamics is a branch that we are starting to study now, thermodynamics. So it is the study of flow of heat, it is the study of temperature, pressure, volume, and work done, internal energy, etc. So the study of heat, temperature, pressure, flow of heat is called thermodynamics. So the first law of thermodynamics is called the zeroth law of thermodynamics. So this is the most fundamental and basic law in thermodynamics. Now it is interesting why it is called zeroth law, because what happened is that two laws were discovered before zeroth law, and they were named first law and second law. So it was later found out that zeroth law is the even fundamental, more simpler law of thermodynamics. So people thought that it would become very confusing if this law is called the first law, and then first law is called the second, and then the second is called the third. It will become very confusing. So people thought that let's do one thing, we can call this zeroth law. So therefore this zeroth law is there in thermodynamics. So it is quite simple. So let's say we have three bodies, and the situation is let's say this is body A, this is body B, and let's say this is body A and this is body C. So if A and B are in thermal equilibrium, or their temperature is same, and if A and C are also in thermal equilibrium, that is their temperature is same, then this implies that the temperature of B and C will also be same, or B or C will be in thermal equilibrium. If they are in thermal equilibrium, that means if their temperature is same, if they are also in thermal equilibrium, so this means this too will also be in thermal equilibrium. This is quite simple. Let's say the temperature of A is 30 degrees Celsius. So by default the temperature of B will be 30 degrees Celsius because they are in thermal equilibrium. Again we know that temperature of A is 30 degrees Celsius. So temperature of C will be 30 degrees Celsius by default because they are in thermal equilibrium. So you can clearly see that B and C are also in thermal equilibrium, that is their temperatures are same. So this was just an example. So this is the zeroth law of thermodynamics, quite simple. Now next we will try to understand how to define the scale of temperature. And what are different units to measure the temperature, and how can we measure the temperature using various types of different devices. So there are quite a few different units of temperature like degree Celsius, degree Fahrenheit, Kelvin, etc. So before going into that, how do we measure the temperature? So we measure the temperature using thermometers. Okay, so let's first start with the most common type of thermometer, that is the mercury thermometer. Mercury thermometer. So mercury is an element which is represented by Hg. So mercury thermometer works on the principle of thermal expansion. So we know that if something if something is heated up, if something is if something is heated up, if something is heated up, then we know that it will expand. Then we know that it usually expands. Okay. So mercury also shows the same phenomena, that when it gets heated up it expands, but the important property is that its expansion is quite visible. So mercury expands, mercury, that is Hg, expands quite easily, therefore we use it for temperature measurement. Because if temperature is increase even little bit, then mercury has a tendency to expand. So mercury easily expands, because of that we use mercury thermometer. So concept is quite simple. So let's say we take a very thin bulb, thin tube, in which we will have mercury, and there will be this point over here from which you will come in contact with the mercury. Some metal piece will be there. So let's say this is the length of the mercury column. So the temperature is equal to AL plus B. So this is quite simple to understand. A and B are some constants. So temperature depends on the length of the mercury column. So more the length of the mercury column, more will be the temperature. It is quite simple, because it will expand more, so length will increase. If you wish, you can call this length as height also, no problem with that. So ultimately, let's say at 0 degree Celsius the length is L naught, and at 100 degrees Celsius the length is L100. So from here you will find that A will be 100 over L100 minus L naught, and T can be found out. T will be L minus L naught over L100 minus L naught into 100 degrees. So what does this mean? So we need to convert the we use water, we refer to water in degree Celsius scale. 0 degree Celsius is melting point, and 100 degrees Celsius is the boiling point. Of water. So temperature scale is based, this degree Celsius temperature scale is based on the water, in which we take boiling point and melting point to be 100 degree and 0 degree Celsius respectively, and we need 100 scales between the boiling point and melting point. So therefore we multiply it using 100. One more thing, there is another scale called Fahrenheit scale, which can be converted into degree Celsius scale by this formula. So you can always refer to this formula for conversion. Now there is another way. In this we discuss about the expansion of the mercury, but there can be another property as well. We can also use resistance. Apart from the length, we can also use resistance, because with increase in temperature resistance of metal also increase. So apart from the length, resistance also increase on increasing the temperature. So we can also find the temperature using the concept of resistance. Now apart from degree Celsius scale, apart from degree Celsius scale, we have an absolute temperature scale, also called Kelvin scale. So as discussed, temperature is the average kinetic energy of the particles of the medium. So the lowest kinetic energy can be 0. So there is a lowest temperature possible. So the kinetic energy becomes 0 when the temperature is equal to minus 273.1496 degrees Celsius. So this is the least temperature which is possible, because below this the kinetic energy cannot decrease. Kinetic energy can be minimum, it can be 0. So this is the minimum temperature which is possible for any particle. So because of this, this is the least temperature. So in degree Celsius, water boils at water melts at 0 degree Celsius, and water boils at 100 degrees Celsius. So Lord Kelvin thought that let's just shift this scale, to shift the Celsius scale, so that least temperature becomes 0, and he later called it 0 Kelvin. So on degree Celsius, let's draw two scales. So on degree Celsius scale, least temperature is minus 273.1496 degrees Celsius. Water melts at 0 degrees Celsius, water boils at 100 degrees Celsius, and so on. So this is the degree Celsius scale. On the Kelvin scale, the least temperature is considered to be 0 Kelvin. Now as we have shifted left side, so 0 degree Celsius will become 273.1496 Kelvin. 100 degrees Celsius will become 373.1496 Kelvin. Obviously we will not go into again and again in 1496. So in general we will call 273. Okay, do not get confused. So what is Kelvin scale or absolute scale? It is a scale in which we shift the temperature of degree Celsius scale so that we get the least temperature as 0 Kelvin, and this is the absolute temperature. So whatever temperature we measure in Kelvin is called the absolute temperature. So remember this thing. So the change in resistance can also be given like R100 minus R0 over 100, and it is same for all temperatures. So this can be used in order to find the absolute scale, Kelvin scale. Now let's move on to the next type of thermometer, which is constant volume gas thermometer. So as the name suggests, the working substance here will be an ideal gas whose volume will not change much. So let's say if we have a gas enclosed in a container having definite volume, fixed volume, constant volume, and definite pressure. In any given state. Will be used here. So if we do that, if we say that volume remains constant, if volume remains constant, so you will study that pressure is directly proportional to temperature. That means if we increase the pressure, temperature will if we increase the temperature, pressure will increase. If we decrease the temperature, pressure will decrease. So there will be a direct relationship between pressure and temperature if we keep the volume of the gas to be a constant. So using that property, that temperature is proportional to pressure, or if we put a constant here, so T equal to Cp, C is any constant, C is any constant. So using this we can find the temperature. So this is the formula that we can use. Temperature will be change in the pressure from P to P naught and P100 minus P naught into 100 degree Celsius. So here what is the parameter which is changing? So here parameter is pressure, which is changing with temperature. So this is quite interesting. In one case of mercury, we studied that temperature can change the length, then temperature could also change the resistance. Then now we are discussing that temperature can change the pressure in the gas. So there are so many ways to find the temperature directly or indirectly, because so many things change because of the change in temperature. And since we are using a gas, and most probably it is an ideal gas, so we can study about this equation as well, which is called the ideal gas equation. Ideal gas equation, which is PV equal to nRT, where P is the pressure, V is the volume of the gas, N is the number of moles, R is the gas constant, and T is the temperature of the gas. The value of R is equal to 8.314 joule per Kelvin per mole. So there are so many ways by which we can find the temperature. Now let's discuss about some different types of walls. So walls or partitions can be of two major types. One is adiabatic wall and one is diathermic wall. So adiabatic wall is a wall in which heat cannot be exchanged. Heat can't be exchanged. And in diathermic wall, heat can be exchanged. So some materials allow the heat to flow, some materials do not allow the heat to flow. So even if temperature of the bodies on the either side of the wall are different. So what does this mean? So even if this is our wall, so this side temperature is less than 100 degrees Celsius, let's say the temperature here is 5 degrees Celsius. So even after that, even if the temperature is different on the two sides of the wall, even after that there will be no transfer of heat from one portion to another portion. So this type of wall is called the adiabatic wall. And in diathermic wall it is quite simple. In it the temperatures if are different, then the heat can or the energy can flow. Now let's discuss about a very simple topic which is very useful, as we discussed earlier, that everything expands when it is heated up. So let's discuss about thermal expansion. So we will be discussing about three types of thermal expansions: one dimensional, two dimensional and three dimensionals, or you can say length expansion, area expansion or volume expansion. Length, area, volume. So whenever, let's say, we are in one dimension, or we are mainly focusing on the there is an object who is mainly having some length and the height and breadth are quite negligible. So if temperature of that object is increased, then the length of this object will increase. So it is observed that the change in the length is proportional to the original length. And when we remove this, and it is also proportional to the change in the temperature. So when we put everything together, we equal to sign, there is one constant alpha. So alpha L del T. So alpha is the coefficient of linear expansion. Coefficient of linear expansion. So this coefficient of linear expansion tells us that for if someone has more alpha, this means that its expansion will be more. If someone has less alpha, that its expansion will be less for a given temperature and a given length. So it is quite understandable that if the length of the object is more, then it will obviously expand more. Okay, if shorter object is there, it will expand less. And if temperature difference is more, that is, if you are going from 0 to 10 degree and if you are going from 0 to 100 degrees, so obviously expansion will be more when the temperature difference is more. So this is quite understandable and quite easy. So from here you can easily find that alpha will be equal to L theta minus L0 over L0 into, let's say, this is T is the temperature. Okay. So this is the formula for linear expansion. Remember, very simple and very important. Now similarly we can have other expansion as well. For example, let's say if the object has dimensions in which length and breadth are quite important and height is not that important, or any of the two dimensions are important. So in that case area will change. So change in the area will be proportional to the original area, and change in the area will be proportional to the change in the temperature. So again, change in the area will be equal to beta A del T, where beta is the coefficient of superficial expansion. Coefficient of superficial or area expansion. So this is the formula for areal expansion. And similarly, if we are in 3 dimension, then or if all the 3 dimensions are important, then change in the volume will be proportional to original volume. More the original volume, more will be the change in the volume. More the change in the temperature, more will be the change in the volume. So del V is equal to gamma V del T. So this is called the coefficient of volume expansion. Coefficient of volume expansion. Similarly, beta will be AT minus A naught over A naught T. Gamma will be Vt minus V naught over V naught T. Now there is a relation between all these three quantities. So the relation is that gamma is equal to twice of beta, which is equal to thrice of alpha.